Hello again. Once upon a time, many years ago, before the Second World War, there were people in Britain who adhered to the principles and ideals of fascism. They called themselves, well, fascists. Oswald Mosley, the oldest son of an obscure Staffordshire baronet, was born in 1896. The only notable thing about his family was that his grandfather bore a remarkable resemblance to John Bull, the personification of Britain. Oswald Mosley served in the First World War, and then in the 1918 general election he stood as a Conservative for Harrow. He was elected and took his seat in the House of Commons at the age of 22, one of the youngest members of Parliament in 20th century Britain. After falling out with the Conservatives, he switched to the Labour Party. In 1926 he was elected as a Labour MP for the Midlands constituency of Smethwick, and soon he was regarded as very much the up-and-coming man in the party. He was a great enthusiast for the ideas of John Maynard Keynes. Keynes thought that when a depression was in the offing, as it was at that time, that the state should actively intervene, which could be done by spending money on public works, employing people to build roads and so on. This is standard economic theory these days, particularly by the Labour Party. Keynes' ideas appeared very shocking to many orthodox thinkers in the 20s and 30s, but Oswald Mosley seized upon them with enthusiasm and produced a blueprint which he believed could stave off the depression which was looming in the country. This entailed the nationalisation of some industries, a programme of public works, and high tariffs on goods imported into Britain. Although on the face of it this was an extremely left-wing plan, the seeds of fascism and what was to be known as the corporate state could already be discerned. After falling out with Labour, Mosley formed his own party, which, after several incarnations, eventually became the British Union of Fascists. Italy appeared to be flourishing under the leadership of the dictator known as Il Duce, the leader. In Portugal and Poland too, dictatorships appeared to be able to solve some of the problems common to most European countries. A strong man, unhampered by parliament or pettifogging rules, could take charge and get things done by overriding opposition, either from big business or intransigent trade unions. It was this attitude, of course, which led in 1933 to Germany becoming a dictatorship under Adolf Hitler, and also General Franco's seizing control of Spain by armed force. Fascism meant rallying around a single strong leader who would invariably become a dictator. It also meant the rejection of parliamentary democracy. When General Pilsudski took over Parliament at the head of a body of armed men, he marched into the Polish Parliament and said out loud, "I shit upon you all." That's the fascist attitude towards democracy. Then too there's the corporate state. There are various things which we can identify fascism by, none of which we see very often these days. When Britain went to war in 1939, the idea of fascism fell out of favour in this country, and since that time there has been no fascist movement here. Fascism is simply not a force in Britain, nor is it ever likely to be so again. It belonged to the 1930s. Whenever you hear people calling this group or that, this individual, this party, fascist, you know that this is nonsense. The people using the word are intellectually bankrupt and having to borrow playground insults from the political scene which existed before the war. These people do not even know what fascism is. It's no more than a sterile catchphrase, which means in most cases no more than "I do not like this person and wish to be insulting about him," disguising my rudeness in outmoded political discourse from the 1930s. Hearing anybody in this country described as fascist tells you far more about the person using that word than about the person to whom the term is being applied. And I think perhaps when we listen to what some of the people at the counter demonstration opposing the patriotic rally today have been saying, the word fascist has been bandied about fairly freely in relation both to people going on the march and Tommy Robinson and everybody else who some left-wing people seem to dislike. It's all nonsense.